Here are 5 brutal lessons from my very first powerlifting competition. My first competition was over a decade ago. I feel old saying that. Now, it was a total mess. So, in the gym, I'd hit a 200 kilo squat, a 100 kilo bench, and a 260 kilo deadlift. Not too bad, right? And I was looking to compete in the under 74 kilo class. Bear in mind, this is around 2002 to 2005-ish, something like that. So at the time, those numbers were actually really good for a 74 kilo lifter. Now, when I actually got on the platform, I only hit 192.5 kilo squat, so big drop off there, a 90 kilo bench, 10 kilos just gone, and a 220 kilo deadlift, worst of all of them. So 40 kilos completely just disappeared. I lost 57.5 kilos off my total in a single day. I'm going to go through the 5 things I wish that I knew before I actually went to that competition so you don't make the same mistakes. Now, the very first thing is the weigh-ins themselves. They're quite weird, so make sure you check what you can wear. 2 hours before the lifting, I stepped on the scales, I stripped down to my underwear. It was in front of some old bloke who I've never met before. I mean, he wasn't just like a friendly old man, he was the official person, but it wasn't the weight itself that was weird to me. I've been cutting weight and competing in judo up till that point for more than 10 years. It was the sudden discussion about my boxers. So I was wearing boxer briefs, normal boxers that people would wear. But it turns out that in some federations, so back then it was GBPF, it's now British Powerlifting, which is the IPF affiliate in the UK, boxer briefs were illegal. So you had to wear budgie smugglers, which are like the tiny, imagine like Speedos that you see swimmers wear. You had to wear them in powerlifting competitions. And I think the logic was that boxer briefs, you could have squat briefs for equips lifting. And I think the idea was that the boxer briefs might be giving some extra support. But I, of course, didn't own any of them. I didn't have any. So I basically had to sprint to the nearest shop, buy like the most uncomfortable pair of underwear I've ever had, and then come back. So the first thing is to just make sure that you check whatever the rules are in your federation and you know what exactly it is you can wear. I mean, like, even the wrong underwear could mean you're disqualified before you lift, which is just ridiculous. And the second thing I wish I knew is a stiff bar will completely expose your deadlift. So I've done 260 kilos in the gym fairly easily, I want to say, or at least that's what I thought. But the problem was I'd been pulling with bumper plates, straps, and a cheap whippy bar that bent so much it was like, it was basically a rack pull. I was basically pulling from the knees at that point, to the point of where, like, I apologise to the gym owners for how much I bent the bar. It's probably like a 50-pound barbell or something. Might have been made of plastic, I'm not sure. On competition day, you're obviously using a proper power bar, so the bar is super stiff. You're not allowed straps, and therefore it meant my tiny little hands are essentially just crying all day for how hard it was. So the plan that day was for me to go 220, 240, and I wasn't even going to be ambitious and try and PB. I just wanted 260 because that would have been a record at the time. I got the 220 and it was rough. I actually failed it on my opener because I was so surprised at how hard it was. I got it on my second. I then failed my third attempt, I think, of 240. Now, I was so annoyed by this and find this out that when I went home, I actually bought an Alico bar, which as a student at the time was probably not the best financial decision. But I was that guy who would take his own barbell to the gym. I look back and it's a bit cringy, but like, you couldn't get hold of calibrated plates and proper power bars at the time. The point of this is you need to be aware of that and to train how you compete. So if you're pulling on like a noodle bar in a Pure Gym or a JD gym, or I guess to be like Planet Fitness or something in the States, you need to expect to lose anywhere from 2 to 5 kilos off your max deadlift when it actually matters. And you just need to be aware of that when you're planning your attempts for the actual competition. And then something that I think is often overlooked is there are never enough toilets at competition. So you're going to have meet day nerves and you're going to need the bathroom, but so will everyone else. Now, if you're at like an old school sports hall with one toilet, good luck. You're about to play the most stressful game of musical chairs in your life. So here's what you need to actually do. The moment you get to the venue, you need to go for a walk around and find a second toilet, find another toilet, find somewhere that's not going to be as busy for everyone else. Even if it's a 5-10 minute walk away, you know when you have to go, you've got like a secret toilet you can go and find. The second part of this is, and it sounds really silly, but bring an extra roll of your own toilet roll, because it will run out. There's going to be 50, 100 plus powerlifters who are all as nervous and caffeine fueled, and a lot of them have terrible diets. You don't want to be sharing the toilet with them, and they will run out, and the organisers are probably not the people who are in the venue, so they're not in charge of it, they're not thinking about it. Bring your own toilet roll. Honestly, if you think I'm joking, ask any experienced lifter, ask somebody you know to take your own. And the other thing is hand sanitizer. So the hygiene standards in some competitions is pretty sketchy, but like the amount of lifters that you see coming out of the bathroom with chalk on their hands is disgusting. And I just feel like they should know that we're all judging you, but you need to make sure that you keep on top of your hygiene. Otherwise, you will get the comp flu, as everybody gets. It's either the comp flu or the comp stomach. And it's basically all these lifters from different places, half of them coming out of the bathroom with chalk still on their hands because they've not washed them, and then using the same barbells that you're using. Everybody's using the exact same barbell for the lifts, so you need to keep on top of your hygiene, or basically you're going to suffer the consequences of it. You obviously can't control other people, but you can control yourself. And then the one which you probably thought was going to be the first advice, which is the one that everybody says: the rules matter. So some of them are stupid, but excuse me, they are there for a reason. And that reason is to be followed, apparently, in competitions. So I was, in the training leading up for the competition, I was buzzing about my bench. Like, I'd hit 100 kilos at the time, but I didn't realise touch and go doesn't count. Now, I wouldn't make that mistake now. I would like to think I wouldn't, and powerlifting is so much more popular than it was back then, but I honestly did not know any different. I just knew I got to max out on all 3 lifts. So nobody had told me I was actually at pause in the competition. Luckily, when we were warming up, one of the more experienced lifters, he actually warned me that I had to pause. But I only had about 5 minutes notice. I'd already set my opener to 90 kilos. It was too late to change it. The plan was 90, 97, then I had 100, 102, something like that, made for a little PB. But that last minute change meant that I lost 10 kilos. So I think I failed my opener, and I got 90 on the second attempt, and I failed 95 or 97, or whichever it was I actually ended up going to. And I was one of the lucky ones. So you might not think it because of the loss of 10 kilos on my bench, but some people show up completely clueless, only to find out that they've been squatting 4 inches high for the last year or whatever. Fortunately, my squats were to standard. I just overestimated how strong I was. But with the bench, make sure you know to pause it. Read the rule books, check, because it's different in different federations. Like the ABPU, BPU doesn't have a start command on bench, whereas British Powerlifting, IPF does. It's such a simple thing. Make sure you read the rules, otherwise you're just giving away kilos on your total. And then the 5th thing, a singlet hides nothing. So if you've never worn one before, you'll have seen people in competitions, but let me just prepare you. So it's thin, it's very tight, and it leaves nothing to the imagination. So if you make the mistake of like adjusting your crotch with chalk on your hands as well, we all can see that white handprint you've left. So we can all admire and know what you've been doing. So bear in mind all of that when you're wearing it in a competition. And what I would suggest you do is wear it for a couple of training sessions at least prior to the competition, so even though it feels like to wear it, you get used to how it feels like, and you can make sure you're comfortable with it too. And then make sure you wash it as well, because the smell of the competitions is horrendous. Deodorant, hygiene, again, you might think I'm like a clean freak. I'm not. It can get pretty bad. If you're watching this, you probably have a similar wavelength to me, and that is that powerlifter should also be jacked, and you shouldn't just be good at squat, bench, deadlift. You should actually have some muscle. I don't look like I've got many muscles, do I? Maybe if I do this. You should actually have some muscles to go with your lifts. So you don't have a concern about your physique with wearing a singlet. Fantastic. But if you're somebody who does have self-confidence in shoes, probably standing in a thin layer of spandex in front of a room full of strangers doing a max attempt lift it's probably not the best time to deal with them. So make sure you're comfortable in the singlet, and otherwise you're going to just feel awkward as hell. With all that said, powerlifting competitions are super fun. They're very good from an objective standpoint to know I've gotten stronger, I've gotten weaker, whatever, because you have other people validating the lift in terms of there is a strict criteria for rules. Did you get it? Didn't you get it? It's calibrated kits. You basically get people to just load your weights for you for the day. The environment's always fantastic, so I would strongly encourage doing it. But these are just 5 odd tips for your first powerlifting meet. Hopefully you found this helpful, and if you didn't, why did you watch all the way to the end?